Hey, and welcome to another episode on Threads of Fates. Today, I've got something really special for you. It's a love story that's so powerful, so full of surprises, that by the end, you'll probably feel like it was written just for you. But before we dive into that, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world are you today. We have viewers from all over the globe, and I love connecting with you all. Now, let's jump in. Imagine this: an airport. Not just any airport, but a bustling international hub. You hear the loudspeakers echoing across the terminal, announcing the arrival of Flight 17 from Copenhagen. You know the sound familiar, comforting, a sign that someone's finally made it home. And there, among the crowd of weary travelers, is Elena Carter. She's pulling her suitcase behind her, her eyes scanning the area, just like anyone who's been on a long, grueling flight. Elena's been through a lot today. She's just landed after more than 10 hours of intercontinental travel. You can see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weariness in her posture. She's been through airports, lines, customs, the whole ordeal. She's 34, an accomplished architect known for her sustainable and eco-friendly designs. At the top of her game, Elena has made a name for herself by focusing on green architecture, homes and buildings that fit perfectly with nature, that live in harmony with the world around them. But despite her success, despite all the accolades, today is different. Today, Elena isn't thinking about her next big project or the future of her company. No, today, she's just looking for one thing: a break. She's looking for a moment of peace, some time to herself. After months of deadlines and projects, her mind and body are begging for rest. But life doesn't always let us take a break, does it? Sometimes, just when we think we've got a moment to breathe, something or someone comes along and shifts everything. Elena feels it before she even sees him. That feeling, that subtle shift in the air, and then, there he is. A man, standing near the public phones, his gaze locked on her, waiting. And in that instant, something strange happens. Elena can't quite place it, but there's an undeniable connection, like their worlds have collided at just the right moment. He smiles at her, a slow, knowing smile, and walks over. "Hi," he says, his voice calm and smooth. "I think we've met before." Elena's taken aback for a second. She's certain they've never met, but there's something in his tone, something that catches her attention. He doesn't seem like just another stranger trying to make small talk. There's something about him that feels different. "I don't think we've met," Elena replies, offering a polite smile, though her curiosity is piqued. "Sorry." He laughs softly, and there's a warmth in his voice. "Maybe not in person, but I feel like we've crossed paths before. Maybe not in the way you think, but there's something here. I know this is going to sound weird, but I feel this connection, this energy between us." Now, Elena's intrigued. This isn't your typical "I've seen you somewhere" approach. There's no hidden agenda, no business pitch behind his words. He's just speaking honestly, as if he's being led by something he can't explain. "You've got me curious," Elena says, her tone shifting a bit. "What exactly do you mean by that?" He smiles again, a little more confidently now. "I've been following your work for a while. I run a real estate firm in Copenhagen, and I've seen your eco-friendly housing projects. They're truly incredible. I think there's a potential for us to work together, to combine your vision with our resources." And, just like that, the conversation shifts. Elena had expected to be left alone after her long flight, but here she is, standing in the airport, being offered something completely unexpected. A business opportunity, yes, but also a chance to partner with someone who genuinely seems to understand her work. "Thank you," Elena says, smiling. "That's very flattering. I appreciate the kind words." He nods, his eyes still focused on her. "It's not just flattery. I'm serious about this. I think we could create something really powerful together." For a moment, Elena's mind races. She's used to being approached by people for one reason or another: work, connections, opportunities. But something about him feels genuine. He doesn't seem like one of those people who is just trying to make a name for himself or leverage her success for his own gain. There's a sincerity in his approach that makes her stop and think. Maybe we could talk more about this sometime, Elena says. I'd be interested to learn more. As she walks away, she can't shake the feeling that something significant has just started. She doesn't know yet where this connection will lead, but she knows that it's the beginning of something. She feels it in her gut. This isn't just another business meeting. This could be something life-changing. Elena couldn't stop thinking about the encounter with the man from Copenhagen as she made her way to the baggage claim area. The conversation was brief, but something about it lingered in her mind. Was it his calm demeanor? Or perhaps it was his genuine admiration for her work. Whatever it wasn't like anything she'd experienced before. She stood there, watching the carousel spin, waiting for her suitcase to appear, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from her assistant, Olivia, back at the office. Elena just wanted to check in. The project with Greenbuild is almost finalized, and I've scheduled your meeting for Monday. Also, don't forget about the conference in Berlin next month. It's a big one. Might be good to clear your schedule for it. Elena sighed and put the phone back in her pocket. The thought of more work was overwhelming, especially after her exhausting flight. She didn't want to think about any projects right now, not when she was so tired. She glanced around the airport, taking in the people and the atmosphere. It was a strange mix of excitement and exhaustion, travelers rushing to their gates, families greeting each other with hugs, and the quiet hum of the machinery that kept everything running smoothly. Finally, Elena's suitcase appeared, and she grabbed it, dragging it behind her as she headed toward the exit. She wasn't sure what her next move was. Part of her wanted to head straight to the hotel and crash, but another part was curious about what this mysterious man could offer. What if his offer was the opportunity she'd been waiting for? A chance to make a real difference in the world, combining her passion for eco-friendly architecture with resources that could amplify her impact. She shook her head. She didn't know him well enough to make that kind of decision. But one thing was clear. The wheels were in motion, and she couldn't ignore that. As she stepped outside, the crisp air of the city hit her, refreshing after the stuffy air of the airplane. The skyline loomed in the distance, and Elena smiled. Copenhagen. She had been here many times before. For work, of course, but this time felt different. This time, it wasn't just about the next project or meeting. There was a sense of possibility in the air. A black car pulled up to the curb, and the driver stepped out, looking around. Elena walked over, her thoughts still scattered. "Miss Carter?" he asked, opening the door for her. "Yes, that's me," Elena replied, stepping into the car. She hadn't arranged for a driver, so it must have been set up by the hotel or the man from earlier. She didn't ask. The car was comfortable, and the journey was quiet. She looked out the window, lost in thought, as the city passed by. She had to admit, something about this whole experience felt fateful. Maybe it was the way she had met the man, or maybe it was the timing. She had just finished a major project and was feeling burned out, longing for something fresh. This could be the start of a new chapter in her life. But was she ready for it? The car finally pulled up to a sleek, modern hotel, and Elena stepped out, grateful to finally be able to unwind. The hotel was just as she remembered, luxurious, with clean lines and minimalist decor, the perfect reflection of her personal taste. The concierge greeted her warmly and handed her the key card for her room. "Your meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, Miss Carter," the concierge added as she handed over the card. "You'll find everything you need in your suite. Have a pleasant evening." Elena nodded, taking the key and heading toward the elevator. She wasn't in the mood for a big dinner or even a fancy meal. All she wanted was to take a long, hot shower, put on something comfortable, and relax. Tomorrow, she would figure everything out. When she reached her suite, she dropped her suitcase on the bed and walked straight to the bathroom. The sound of the water hitting the floor was soothing, and as she closed her eyes under the warm stream, she allowed herself to unwind. For the first time in days, her mind was calm, As she dried off and slipped into a robe, Elena picked up her phone and glanced at the time. It was nearly 8 p.m. and she had a decision to make. Should she call the man from earlier? Should she take a chance on this unexpected opportunity? Her thumb hovered over the number in her contacts list, but before she could make a decision, there was a knock at the door. Elena froze. She hadn't ordered room service. Could it be him? No, that didn't make sense. He wouldn't come to her room, right? She walked cautiously to the door and peered through the peephole. To her surprise, it was the hotel staff, holding a small package. "Miss Carter," the staff member called out, "a delivery for you." Curious, Elena opened the door and took the package. It was small, wrapped in brown paper with no markings or label. She thanked the staff member and closed the door behind her. Sitting down on the bed, she carefully opened the package. Inside, there was a note, along with a beautifully crafted model of a house that looked eerily similar to one of her designs. The note was simple. "I look forward to discussing this with you, Jay." Elena's heart skipped a beat. It was him, the man she had met earlier. But how did he know so much about her work? And why would he send something like this? For a moment, Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't know what to think, but one thing was for sure: this wasn't just another business proposal. Something much bigger was at play here. She stared at the model, her mind racing. Tomorrow, she would meet with him. But what would she say? What would she do? The next morning came quickly. Elena woke up feeling oddly restless, her mind still tangled in thoughts from the night before. She had barely slept, her mind replaying every word, every gesture from her brief encounter with the man from Copenhagen. She couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting, this opportunity, wasn't just another business deal. No, this was something different. She could feel it in her gut, like the first spark of something huge. After a quick shower and a strong cup of coffee, she dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, a navy blouse paired with a pencil skirt suitable for a business meeting, but still comfortable enough for a long day ahead. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she could see the determination in her eyes. She had always prided herself on being a driven, focused individual, but something about today made her pause. It wasn't fear, it was more like anticipation. When she walked into the hotel lobby, she was immediately greeted by a warm, welcoming staff member who escorted her to the meeting room. The building had a sleek, modern feel, with large windows that let in streams of natural light, giving the space an open, airy vibe. Elena felt at ease here, but the excitement bubbling in her chest was hard to ignore. As she stepped into the meeting room, her gaze immediately landed on him. The man from last night. He was standing by the large conference table, his posture relaxed yet confident, his eyes focused on a tablet in front of him. He didn't seem surprised to see her, but there was something in the way he looked at her that made her feel like she was being sized up, studied in a way that made her both intrigued and slightly on edge. "Good morning, Elena," he said smoothly, his voice calm but purposeful. "I'm glad you could make it." She nodded, walking over to the table and sitting across from him. "Good morning," she replied. "I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm here." He smiled, his gaze softening slightly. "I understand. When I reached out to you last night, I wasn't sure if you'd take me seriously. I know this might seem sudden, but I have a strong feeling that we're meant to work together. I've been following your work for quite some time, and I think we share a vision." Elena studied him for a moment, trying to gauge whether or not this was just another pitch. Was he just another businessman trying to use her to further his own agenda? Or was there something more to this? "I'm listening," she said, her voice steady, though the curiosity in her eyes was impossible to hide. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers. "I've seen your designs, Elena. The way you blend sustainability with modern architecture is truly groundbreaking. But I believe we could do more. Imagine taking your eco-friendly designs and applying them on a global scale, working with governments, with developers, and with people who have the resources to make a real impact. We could change the way the world builds." Elena's mind raced. The idea of expanding her work beyond what she had ever imagined was both exhilarating and overwhelming. She had always dreamed of making a bigger impact, but she had never considered collaborating with someone like him. He wasn't just offering a partnership, he was offering an entirely new way of thinking about architecture, about the future of the world. But there was one thing she had to know before she could make any decisions. "Why me?" Elena asked, her voice calm but piercing. "You said you've been following my work for a while. But why approach me? What makes you think I'm the right person for this?" He didn't hesitate. "Because you're not just an architect. You're a visionary. Your designs aren't just buildings. They're pieces of a greater future. I can see it. I've seen how you think about space, about the environment, about the people who will live in those spaces. That's rare. Most people just want to make a profit, but you care about creating something that lasts." Elena felt a warmth spread through her at his words. It was flattering, of course, but there was also a part of her that felt a little uncertain. Was he just saying what he thought she wanted to hear, or did he truly understand what drove her? "You've been following my work closely," she said slowly, leaning back in her chair. "What exactly do you have in mind? What's the next step?" He smiled, and this time there was a gleam in his eye, a sense of purpose that made Elena sit up straighter. "I want to help you make your vision a reality on a much larger scale. But we need to start by building a team of people who share our passion and our drive. People who understand that this isn't just about building houses, it's about changing the world." Elena thought about it for a moment. She had always worked alone or with a small team. The idea of bringing in more people, building something bigger, was both thrilling and daunting. But she couldn't deny the pull of the challenge. "And what role would you play in all of this?" she asked, her curiosity growing. He leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "I'll be your partner. My company has the resources and the connections to help get your designs off the ground. But I want you to lead. This is your vision, your legacy. I'm just here to help make it a reality." Elena absorbed his words, weighing them carefully. This was the opportunity she had dreamed about for years, a chance to take her work to the next level. But it also came with risks. She would be sharing her vision, her life's work, with someone else. Could she trust him? "I need time to think about this," she said finally, her voice steady but firm. "This is a big decision. I can't rush into it." He nodded, his expression softening. "Of course, take all the time you need. But know this, I believe in you, Elena. I believe in your vision." 7. When I came to say Disternos. As the meeting ended and Elena stood to leave, she felt a strange sense of clarity wash over her. This wasn't just a typical business deal, it was something more. Something that could change everything. But was she ready to take that leap? Elena spent the next few days in Copenhagen, her mind racing with the possibilities that had been presented to her. Every time she tried to relax, to clear her thoughts, she found herself returning to the conversation with him, the man who had come into her life so unexpectedly, offering not just a business proposal but a new direction. She had kept her distance for a reason. Elena wasn't someone who made snap decisions. She took her time, weighed the pros and cons, and considered all the risks. She knew better than to jump headfirst into something just because it seemed exciting. But what if this was different? What if this opportunity was the one she had been waiting for? Elena had always been driven by a desire to make a real impact. Her projects were not just about creating beautiful spaces, they were about sustainability, about ensuring that the world could thrive alongside the buildings we constructed. That had always been her vision. But this was something bigger. It was more than just a project. It was a movement, a chance to change the way the world thought about architecture, about the environment, and about the future. But she still had doubts. Was she really ready for this? Was she ready to trust someone else with her vision? Could she truly step into the role of a leader, of someone who would build something on a global scale? To clear her mind, she decided to take a walk through the city. Copenhagen was beautiful this time of year. The streets lined with trees that had just started to turn gold and red. The crisp autumn air was refreshing, and the soft rustle of leaves beneath her feet gave her a sense of calm she hadn't felt in days. As she wandered through the streets, Elena couldn't help but think back to her first encounter with him. There had been something magnetic about the way he spoke, the confidence he exuded without being arrogant. He had a way of making her feel like anything was possible, and yet she didn't know him. She didn't know his past, his motivations, or whether he truly cared about the things that mattered to her. "Excuse me, Miss Carter." Elena turned to see a young man standing near a cafe, holding a piece of paper. He looked nervous, unsure whether he should approach her. "Yes?" Elena asked, a little taken aback by the sudden interruption. I saw you walking by, and I just wanted to say, I'm a huge fan of your work. I've followed your projects for years, and I admire what you're doing with sustainable design. It's really inspiring," he said, his voice shaky but sincere. Elena smiled, touched by the compliment. It wasn't the first time someone had recognized her in public, but something about this moment felt different. It was a reminder of why she had started down this path in the first place, because of the impact she could have on the world. "Thank you," Elena said, genuinely appreciative. "That means a lot to me." The young man seemed to relax a bit, his face lighting up with a smile. "I actually just graduated from architecture school. I've been trying to get my foot in the door, and your work has been a huge influence on me. If I could ever get the chance to collaborate with someone like you." Elena's heart swelled with pride. She had always believed that the work she did was meant to inspire others, to show that architecture could be a force for good, but hearing it from someone else made her realize just how far her influence had reached. "Well, don't stop dreaming," Elena encouraged him. "The world needs more people like you, people who want to make a difference." As she walked away from the cafe, Elena couldn't help but think about the young man's words. He was right, she had the power to make a difference. She had already started, with every project she had touched, every design that had been built with care and consideration for the planet. But this new opportunity, the one that had been presented to her, could take that impact to an entirely new level. The thought made her heart race. Could she really take the leap? Could she trust herself and him to make something extraordinary? She spent the evening reflecting on it all. There was no rush. She could take her time, think it through. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that the biggest risk of all was not taking the chance. The next morning, Elena sat down at her desk, her laptop open in front of her. She clicked on the email from him, the one that she had been putting off for days. She reread his message, the one with the offer to meet and discuss the partnership further. He had been patient, giving her the time she needed, but the time had come to make a decision. With a deep breath, Elena typed a response. "I've given it a lot of thought, and I think I'm ready. Let's talk about the next steps." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, feeling a rush of excitement mixed with nerves. This was it. She was ready to take the leap. Later that day, she received a response almost immediately. "I'm thrilled to hear that, Elena. Let's set up a meeting for tomorrow at your convenience. I'm looking forward to taking the next steps together." As she read his words, Elena couldn't help but smile. She was on the verge of something incredible. The journey she had been on, the path that had led her here, was about to take a new turn, and no matter what happened, she was ready to face it head-on. The next day, Elena woke up with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. The email she had sent the night before had set things in motion, and now, she was about to step into a new chapter of her career, one that could change everything. The excitement from the previous evening had only intensified overnight, and despite the lingering nerves, Elena knew deep down that she had made the right choice. She spent the morning preparing, reviewing her portfolio of projects, making sure she could speak confidently about her work and her vision. She wanted to be sure that, no matter what, she was ready to discuss what truly mattered to her: the importance of sustainability in architecture, the need for innovative design that didn't harm the planet, and her unwavering belief that buildings could and should be a force for good. By the time she arrived at the meeting venue, the nerves had settled into a steady determination. She was ready. This was her moment to see if this partnership could be more than just another business venture. It could be the opportunity to make a real difference on a much larger scale. She walked into the meeting room to find him already there, sitting at the same conference table as before, a confident smile on his face. His calm presence was reassuring, as if he had been waiting for this moment just as much as she had. "Good morning, Elena," he greeted her, standing up and offering a handshake. "Good morning," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "Thank you for your patience. I've had a lot to think about, and I'm ready to talk." He nodded, his expression focused but warm. "I'm glad to hear that. I've been looking forward to this. I believe we have the potential to do something incredible together." As they both sat down, Elena felt the weight of the decision she had made. This wasn't just about architecture, it was about creating something that would outlast them both, something that would have a lasting impact on the world. And yet, the uncertainty still loomed. There were risks involved. Of course, there always were. But what she had come to realize over the past few days was that the biggest risk of all was playing it safe. "I've been thinking a lot about your vision," Elena began, her voice steady as she met his gaze. "And I agree. I believe we can do something incredible. But I also need to know that we're aligned on the values that matter most to me. Sustainability, integrity, creating spaces that not only stand the test of time but also enrich the lives of the people who use them." He listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. "I understand completely. And I'm with you. My company has the resources to bring this vision to life, but it's your values that will shape the direction we go in. I want to make sure we're doing this the right way." Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her. This wasn't just another business deal. He wasn't just trying to make money or expand his influence, he was genuinely invested in the vision she had built over the years. And that made all the difference. "So, what's next?" Elena asked, her curiosity piqued. "How do we move forward from here?" He smiled, clearly pleased with her response. "The next step is to build a team. We need people who understand the importance of what we're doing, people who will be as committed to sustainability and innovation as we are. We'll need architects, engineers, environmental experts, and a network of partners who share our vision. But I believe that with the right team in place, we can create something truly groundbreaking." Elena nodded, feeling a sense of excitement stir within her. Building a team, this was the next challenge, the next step toward bringing her vision to life on a scale she had never imagined. It would take time, but it was possible. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone in this journey. "But we also need to make sure that we're not just talking about it," he continued. "We need to start showing people what we can do. We need to take action, make a statement with our first project, and prove that this vision isn't just an idea, it's something that can be realized." Elena's mind raced as she thought about what their first project could look like. The possibilities were endless. A sustainable, eco-friendly housing development, maybe, or a public space designed to serve the community while minimizing its environmental impact. There was so much potential, and yet, she knew they had to be strategic. They couldn't afford to make mistakes, they had to set the bar high from the very beginning. "I'm with you," Elena said, her voice filled with conviction. "Let's make this happen." He smiled, clearly satisfied with her response. "Great. I knew you were the right person for this. Together, we can build something that will leave a legacy, something that will change the way the world thinks about architecture." The meeting continued with a detailed discussion of the next steps, finding the right people for the team, securing initial funding, and setting up meetings with potential partners. Elena was fully immersed in the process now, her excitement growing with every word exchanged. This was it. This was the beginning of something bigger than anything she had ever imagined. As the meeting wrapped up and Elena walked out of the room, she felt a sense of accomplishment settle over her. The uncertainty was still there, of course, But it was no longer paralyzing. She had made her decision, and now it was time to take action. She was ready to lead this project, to turn her vision into reality. She glanced at the city skyline outside the window and smiled. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Elena was certain of one thing. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. In the weeks that followed, Elena threw herself into the project with everything she had. There was no turning back now. The team she had been building was coming together, and slowly but surely, the framework for their first major project was taking shape. She spent hours each day reviewing plans, meeting with architects, engineers, and environmental specialists, making sure every decision they made aligned with her vision for sustainable, future-forward design. Every morning, Elena woke up with a sense of purpose that pushed her through the long hours. She knew that what they were about to create wasn't just about constructing buildings. It was about changing the way people lived, how they interacted with the world around them, and how they thought about the future. The pressure was high, but Elena was driven by a clear sense of responsibility. This wasn't just a job, it was a mission. Despite the whirlwind of meetings and plans, Elena kept her focus on the bigger picture, ensuring the integrity of the project, making sure the team stayed aligned with their values, and keeping herself grounded in the principles that had always guided her. Sustainability wasn't just a buzzword to her, it was the core of everything she did. She wasn't willing to sacrifice that, not for anything. But as much as she had grown used to the high demands of her work, there were moments when she found herself overwhelmed. The responsibility of leading such a massive project, of pushing forward with something this transformative, could sometimes feel like too much. She missed the days when her work had been simpler, when it had just been about her designs and the immediate impact they had on the communities she was building for. Now, every decision felt heavier, every meeting more important. One evening, as she sat in her office, going through a mountain of paperwork, her phone buzzed. It was a message from him. "Elena, I've been thinking. We need to step up our efforts in terms of outreach. People need to see what we're doing. I've arranged a meeting with some key partners next week, investors, media, and influencers in the sustainability space. It's time to start building the buzz around this project. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss our strategy." Elena stared at the message, her heart rate quickening. She knew this was the next step, getting the world's attention, generating the excitement and support they needed to move forward. But the idea of putting herself out there, of stepping into the public eye, made her uneasy. She had never been one to seek the spotlight. Her work had always spoken for itself, but this was different. This project wasn't just about her anymore. It was about a movement. It was about showing the world that sustainable architecture could and should be at the forefront of how we built our cities, our homes, our future. She took a deep breath and typed back a response. "I agree. Let's meet tomorrow. I'll start preparing some talking points and strategies for the meeting." That night, Elena couldn't help but feel the weight of what was ahead. The pressure was mounting, and she knew the eyes of the world would soon be on her. The stakes were higher than ever, and she couldn't afford to let doubt creep in. The next day, she arrived at the meeting with a fresh sense of resolve. As she sat down at the table, he greeted her with a smile, a hint of excitement in his eyes. "I'm glad we're on the same page," he said, his tone encouraging. "This is our chance to show everyone what we're capable of. We've already laid the groundwork. Now it's time to amplify our message." Elena nodded, her focus sharpening. "I've been thinking a lot about the messaging. We need to emphasize that this is more than just a project. It's a shift in the way people think about design, sustainability, and how we can build a better world for future generations. We need to make sure the world knows that what we're doing is groundbreaking." He smiled again, clearly pleased. "Exactly. And we have the team, the resources, and now we have the momentum. But it's crucial that we approach this strategically. We need to build relationships with the right people, and we need to ensure that our messaging is consistent and impactful." The conversation continued, with both of them bouncing ideas off one another, brainstorming ways to effectively communicate their vision. Elena felt a spark of inspiration as they discussed strategies. This was what she had been waiting for. The opportunity to finally share her vision with the world, to bring others along on this journey. The meeting wrapped up with a plan in place. They would begin reaching out to key influencers in the sustainability and architecture spaces, crafting a narrative that positioned their project as the future of building. They would host events, collaborate with environmental organizations, and use social media to create buzz. But above all, they would stay true to their mission, creating spaces that honored both people and the planet. Elena left the meeting feeling energized. For the first time in a while, she felt like she was truly in control. This was more than just about building a structure. It was about shifting the cultural narrative around what it meant to build responsibly. And she was ready for the challenge. That evening, as she sat at her desk, looking over the plans for the project, she thought back to that first meeting with him, the one that had seemed so uncertain, so full of possibilities. She had trusted her instincts then, and now, more than ever, she knew she had made the right choice. As she looked out the window at the city skyline, Elena smiled. The road ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. The world was about to see what they could do. The next few weeks flew by in a blur of meetings, planning sessions, and strategy discussions. Elena barely had time to catch her breath. The project was moving at lightning speed, and with every step, the excitement and pressure mounted. What had started as an ambitious dream was now becoming a reality, and the world was starting to take notice. The first major breakthrough came when they secured a partnership with a well-known environmental nonprofit organization. The partnership not only gave their project credibility, but it also provided a platform for them to reach a much larger audience. Elena couldn't believe how quickly things were falling into place. It was as if the universe had opened a door, and everything she had worked for was finally being recognized. But with the success came the inevitable stress. There were constant decisions to be made, each one carrying weight. There were sleepless nights, endless phone calls, and a never-ending stream of emails. Elena found herself drowning in the sheer volume of work, and yet, there was no time to slow down. She had built this project from the ground up, and now it was all on her shoulders. The pressure to succeed was suffocating. One evening, after another long day of meetings, Elena found herself in her hotel room, staring at the city lights outside her window. She couldn't shake the feeling that, despite all the progress they had made, something was missing. She had the vision, the team, and the resources, but she still couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing a key piece of the puzzle. That's when her phone buzzed. It was a message from him. "Elena, we're ready. The media event is set for next week. It's time to show the world what we've been working on. I'm confident that this will be the turning point for us. Let's meet tomorrow and finalize everything." She read the message over and over, the words sinking in. This was it, the moment they had been building toward. The media event would be the first time they publicly revealed their project to the world. It had to go perfectly. There was no room for error. Elena felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She had been preparing for this moment for months, but now that it was here, she couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready. Could they live up to the hype? Could they really make the impact they had promised? The next day, Elena arrived at the meeting, her mind still swirling with doubt. She was greeted by him, who looked as calm and collected as ever. "You're looking a little stressed," he said with a smile, noting the tension in her shoulders. Elena laughed nervously. "I guess I am. I've been thinking about the event. It feels like everything is riding on it." He nodded, his expression serious now. "I get it, but you've done the work. We've done the work. This event is just the next step. The world is ready to hear our message. We've got the right team, the right partners, and the right vision. The only thing left is to show them what we've built." His words were reassuring, but Elena still couldn't shake the fear that had settled in her chest. What if it wasn't enough? What if the world didn't respond the way they hoped? Seeing the doubt in her eyes, he leaned forward. "Elena, You've been the heart of this project from the beginning. No one knows it better than you. You've shaped every detail, every decision. The people who show up to this event, they're not just coming for the project. They're coming to hear your story. They're coming because they believe in you." She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. He was right. She had built this from the ground up. Every design, every decision, had her fingerprints all over it. This wasn't just a business venture, it was her passion, her dream, and it was finally coming to life. "Okay," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Let's do this. Let's show the world what we've built." The media event was everything they had hoped for. The room was filled with journalists, investors, environmental activists, and influencers, all eager to learn about the groundbreaking project Elena and her team had been working on. The excitement in the air was palpable, and as Elena stood on the stage, ready to present their vision, she felt a sense of pride swell within her. This was her moment. As she spoke, sharing the story of the project and its potential to revolutionize the way cities were built, Elena felt a deep connection to the audience. They weren't just listening to her, they were believing in her. They were seeing the future through her eyes. And in that moment, Elena knew that this was more than just about architecture. It was about creating a legacy, about changing the world in ways she had always dreamed of. When the presentation was over, the applause was overwhelming. The response from the crowd was exactly what they had hoped for, and more. Journalists were eager to interview her, and investors were already asking how they could get involved. For the first time in a long time, Elena felt a weight lift off her shoulders. They had done it. They had made it. Later that evening, as she sat in a quiet corner of the venue, sipping on a glass of wine, Elena felt a sense of calm wash over her. The pressure hadn't disappeared, but it no longer felt insurmountable. She had made the right choice. She had trusted her instincts, taken risks, and now, the world was watching. She glanced at her phone, a message from him popping up on the screen. "You did it, Elena. We did it. I knew you were the right person for this from the start. This is just the beginning." She smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment settle in her chest. He was right. This was just the beginning. The road ahead would be full of challenges, but Elena knew she was ready. She was no longer just an architect. She was a leader, a visionary, and the world was finally ready to see what she could do. The days after the media event were a whirlwind. Elena's phone never stopped buzzing. Journalists wanted interviews, investors wanted meetings, and environmental advocates were eager to align with the project. For the first time in her career, Elena was at the center of something much bigger than herself. The success of the event had ignited a firestorm of interest in the project, and with that came the pressure to keep up the momentum. But despite all the excitement, Elena felt the weight of responsibility more than ever. The media buzz was one thing, but turning that excitement into real, lasting impact was a whole different challenge. She knew that the hard work was only just beginning. Now, it was time to deliver on the promises they had made. As she sat in her office, looking over the contracts and proposals that had piled up over the past few days, Elena couldn't help but feel the strain. She had always been the one to make the decisions, the one who steered the ship, but now it felt as though the weight of the entire project and the future of her vision was on her shoulders alone. The team was great, and they had all worked tirelessly to bring the project to this point, but Elena knew that, ultimately, the success or failure of it all rested with her. One morning, she found herself in a rare moment of quiet, sitting alone in a conference room with a cup of coffee, trying to clear her head. It had been days since she had had any time for herself, and the constant demands of the project had begun to take a toll. Her mind was racing, and her body was exhausted. She knew she needed a break, but the thought of stepping away even for a moment felt impossible. "Everything okay?" A voice interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see him standing in the doorway, a concerned look on his face. He had a way of always knowing when she was overwhelmed, and he never hesitated to step in when she needed support. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice betrayed her. She sighed and ran a hand through her hair. It's just a lot. There's so much to do, and it feels like I can't keep up with everything." He stepped into the room and sat down across from her, giving her a moment to collect her thoughts before speaking. "I get it. This isn't just about building a few structures anymore, it's about changing the entire landscape of architecture. But you don't have to do it alone. You've built an incredible team, and they're here to support you." "I know," Elena said, her voice soft. "But it's hard to let go of the reins. I've always been the one to drive the vision. It's hard to trust that the team can handle it without me overseeing every detail." He smiled gently. "I understand, but you don't have to control everything. Trust your team. Trust that they share your vision and want the same outcome. The more you try to do it all, the more it'll wear you down, and if you burn out now, you won't be able to see this project through to the end." Her shoulders slumped slightly, and she took a deep breath. It was difficult to admit, but he was right. She had been so focused on the outcome, on making sure everything went perfectly, that she hadn't given herself the space to step back and let others take the lead. She couldn't carry the weight of the entire project alone. "I don't know if I can do that," Elena said, her voice quieter now. "I don't know if I can just step back and trust that it'll be okay." "You already have," he said, his tone firm but encouraging. "You've built something amazing. You've attracted the right people, and now it's time to let them do their part. You can't do everything, and that's okay. The key to leadership isn't doing it all yourself, it's about empowering others to help make your vision a reality, too." Elena stared at him for a moment, the truth of his words sinking in. She had always prided herself on being in control, but maybe it was time to let go. Maybe it was time to trust her team more and take a step back to focus on the bigger picture, the vision that had sparked this entire journey in the first place. "I think you're right," she said finally, her voice steady. "I've been so focused on making sure everything is perfect that I forgot the bigger picture. I can't do this alone, and I shouldn't have to. I've built a team that's just as invested in this as I am." He smiled, clearly relieved to see her reaching that conclusion. "Exactly. You've created something incredible, Elena. Now, let the team help you bring it to life, and don't forget to take care of yourself in the process. You're the heart of this project, but even the heart needs rest." Elena chuckled softly, the weight on her shoulders lightening a little. "I'll try to remember that." The next few days were a turning point for her. Elena made a conscious decision to trust her team more, to step back and allow them to take ownership of certain aspects of the project. It wasn't easy, but it felt like the right move. And as she watched the team step up, taking charge of the tasks she had once micromanaged, she began to realize that they were more than capable. As the project continued to grow and evolve, Elena found that the more she trusted her team, the more they flourished. The pressure didn't disappear, but it felt more manageable. She was no longer carrying the weight of the project alone, and with that, she regained a sense of balance, one that had been missing for far too long. But even as the project took on a life of its own, Elena knew one thing was certain. This was only the beginning. There was still so much more to do, so much more to build, and so much more to learn. But for the first time in a long time, she was ready to face it all. As the months passed, the project continued to evolve at an impressive pace. Elena watched, with a growing sense of pride, as her vision slowly came to life. The first phase of construction was well underway, and the team was working together seamlessly, each member contributing their expertise and passion to the project. It was becoming clear that they were creating something special, a model for how sustainable design could be integrated into the fabric of modern life. But despite the progress, there were still challenges to face. The higher the stakes, the more complicated things became. Investors wanted regular updates, stakeholders had their own ideas about the direction of the project, and media attention was only growing stronger. Elena had been prepared for the hard work, but the intensity of the pressure was unlike anything she had ever experienced. One evening, as Elena sat at her desk, reviewing the latest updates on the project's progress, She found herself staring at a report that seemed to hold a potential roadblock. The cost of materials for the eco-friendly building systems had risen unexpectedly, threatening to delay the timeline they had promised. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. It wasn't just the numbers that worried her, it was the possibility of disappointing everyone. She had made so many promises, to the investors, to the partners, to the community. What would they say if she had to delay the project? What would they think if they found out that a small setback could jeopardize everything? The door to her office creaked open, and her assistant, Olivia, walked in, holding a folder in her hands. "You okay?" Olivia asked, her voice filled with concern as she noticed the furrow in Elena's brow. Elena gave a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine, just dealing with some challenges." Olivia set the folder on Elena's desk and sat down across from her. "What's going on?" Elena hesitated for a moment before handing her the report. "The cost of the materials for the sustainable construction has gone up unexpectedly. If we don't find a solution, it could delay the entire project. I don't know how we'll manage it." Olivia read through the report quickly before looking up at Elena. "This isn't ideal, but I think we can figure it out. Have you spoken to the team about it yet?" Elena shook her head. "Not yet. I don't want to panic anyone. But I can't keep this from them. We need to figure out a way to move forward without compromising the project's integrity." Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "It's a tough situation, but I'm sure the team can help brainstorm some ideas. Maybe we can look into alternative suppliers or find ways to streamline other aspects of the project." Elena sighed. "I hope so. I just hate the thought of pushing this back. People are counting on us." Olivia leaned forward, her expression serious but supportive. "You've built something incredible, Elena. You've come this far, and you've overcome so many obstacles already. This one might seem big, but it's just another hurdle to get past. You don't have to do it alone. Lean on your team, they're just as invested in this as you are." Elena stared at the report for a moment, taking in Olivia's words. She was right. This wasn't the first obstacle they had faced, and it wouldn't be the last. What mattered most now was how they responded, how they adapted, and found a way to keep moving forward. The strength of the project wasn't just in the designs or the materials, it was in the people who believed in it. And she couldn't forget that. "Thanks, Olivia," Elena said, finally feeling a sense of calm wash over her. "You're right. I just needed to hear that." Olivia smiled. "Anytime. Now, let's tackle this together." The next morning, Elena called a meeting with the core team. As they gathered around the table, she explained the situation, the unexpected cost increases and the potential delay, but instead of focusing on the problem, she encouraged the team to focus on solutions. Everyone had their own expertise, and together, they would find a way to keep the project on track without compromising its integrity. For the next few hours, they brainstormed ideas, from negotiating with suppliers to exploring alternative materials that could reduce costs while maintaining the project's sustainability goals. It wasn't easy, but by the end of the meeting, they had a plan in place. They had found ways to mitigate the cost increases, and though it would require some adjustments, they were confident they could stay on track. Elena left the meeting feeling a renewed sense of hope. It hadn't been easy, but the team had come together, just as she had hoped. They had solved the problem, and they were moving forward stronger than ever. Elena realized that this was the key to success. No matter how big the challenge, they could overcome it together. That evening, she sat down at her desk again, reflecting on how far they had come. There were still many obstacles ahead, but now, more than ever, she knew they could handle whatever came their way. They were building something that mattered, something that would last, and as long as they stayed true to their vision, they would find a way to succeed. She picked up her phone and sent a message to him, letting him know about the team's progress. "We've got it under control. The team worked together, and we have a plan. We're still on track." He responded almost immediately. "I knew you'd find a way. This is why you're the right person for this. Keep pushing forward. We're with you." Elena smiled as she read his words. She had built this project from the ground up, and now, it was truly coming to life. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready for whatever came next. She had a vision, a team, and a belief that they could make a difference. And that was all she needed. As the project continued to evolve, Elena found herself increasingly grateful for the support of her team. They had worked tirelessly to ensure that every detail was in place, and despite the setbacks, they remained focused and determined. It wasn't just about building a structure anymore, it was about creating something that would stand the test of time, something that would inspire future generations to think differently about architecture, sustainability, and the way we live. But as the stakes grew higher, Elena's own sense of self-doubt started to resurface. Despite the progress, despite the success they had already achieved, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. The more she achieved, the more she felt like there was a new challenge on the horizon, one that she wasn't sure she was prepared for. One afternoon, she found herself standing at the site of the project, watching as workers and engineers moved efficiently around her. The skeleton of the first building was beginning to take shape, and for the first time in a long time, Elena allowed herself to stop and take in the sight. This was it. The vision she had worked so hard for was finally coming to life. And yet, she couldn't escape the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. It was hard to pinpoint everything looked good, everything seemed to be progressing smoothly, but there was a lingering sense of unease that she couldn't shake. "Elena," a voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to see him walking toward her, a relaxed smile on his face. He was always calm, always steady, but there was a certain knowing in his eyes that made her feel like he could read her like an open book. "Hey," Elena said, trying to shake off the doubts. "It's looking great, isn't it?" "It is," he agreed, glancing around at the construction site. "You've done something incredible here, but I can tell something's bothering you." Elena hesitated before speaking. "I don't know. It's just, I've spent so much time thinking about the next step, about what comes after this, and now that we're getting closer to the finish line, I'm not sure I'm ready. What if we've missed something important? What if we haven't thought through everything?" He nodded, understanding. "I get it. You've been so focused on the details, on making everything perfect, that it's easy to get overwhelmed. But the fact is, you've done everything you can. You've surrounded yourself with the best people, and you've built something that has the potential to change the world. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And you've made a lot of progress. It is very why." Elena felt a small weight lift off her shoulders as she took in his words. She had always been a perfectionist, always wanting to control every detail and make sure everything was flawless. But maybe, just maybe, she had been holding herself to an impossible standard. "You're right," she said, her voice softer now. "I've been so focused on making sure everything is perfect that I forgot why I started this in the first place. I wanted to make an impact, to change the way people think about architecture, and I think we're doing that. I don't know, I guess I'm scared." "Scared of what?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Scared that we're not doing enough," Elena admitted. "Scared that despite all this hard work, we're not making the kind of difference I want to make. Scared that people won't understand, or worse, that they'll see this as just another project." He smiled, that familiar warmth returning to his eyes. "Elena, what you're doing isn't just another project. It's a movement. You're showing the world that sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's a way of life. And there's no going back now. People are paying attention. And they will continue to pay attention because you're leading by example." She looked at him, taking in his words. "I hope you're right. I really do. But even if we succeed, I know there's so much more to be done. The world needs more than just one project. It needs a revolution in how we think about design and the environment. I can't stop now." "You won't?" he said with conviction. "You've already started something that can't be undone, and no matter what happens next, you've already made a difference. You've already shown people what's possible." Elena took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of clarity. She had been so caught up in her own doubts, in trying to ensure that everything was perfect, that she had forgotten the bigger picture. This wasn't just about one project or one building, it was about sparking a movement, inspiring change, and showing the world that it was possible to build in a way that respected the planet. "Thank you," Elena said quietly, the weight on her shoulders lifting as she finally allowed herself to believe in the work they had done. "You've always known exactly what to say." He shrugged, the smile never leaving his face. "I just say what I believe. And I believe in you, Elena. You've got this." As the sun began to set over the construction site, casting a golden glow over the buildings and scaffolding, Elena felt a sense of peace settle within her. The road ahead would still be challenging, and there would undoubtedly be more obstacles to overcome. But for the first time in a long time, she knew she was on the right path. She had built something that would outlast her, something that would make a difference in the world, and that was all that mattered. As the months passed, the project began to take on a life of its own. The buildings were rising higher each day, and the team was working tirelessly to ensure that every aspect was aligned with their vision. Elena could hardly believe how far they had come. What had once been a dream was now a concrete reality, visible to anyone who walked past the site. People stopped to take photos, to marvel at the innovative designs, and Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of pride every time she saw someone pause to appreciate the work. But despite the excitement, there were still obstacles to face. The higher the profile of the project became, the more scrutiny it attracted. Critics, both within the industry and outside of it, began to voice their concerns. Some questioned the feasibility of the designs. Others believed that the project, despite its good intentions, would ultimately be too expensive to succeed on a large scale. Elena had heard the whispers. She knew that people were skeptical, and while she understood the concerns, it was hard not to feel the weight of the criticism. It wasn't just about her vision anymore. It was about proving to the world that sustainable architecture could be both beautiful and practical, that it could be a model for future developments. One evening, after another long day at the site, Elena found herself sitting in her office, staring at the endless emails and reports that awaited her attention. She was exhausted. The pressure had been building, and for the first time in months, she felt the weight of it all settling heavily on her shoulders. She wanted to succeed. She wanted to prove the skeptics wrong. But was it enough? The door to her office opened, and Olivia walked in, holding a cup of tea in one hand. "I thought you might need this," she said, setting the cup down on Elena's desk. "Thanks," Elena replied, smiling weakly. She hadn't even realized how much she needed a moment of respite. Olivia took a seat across from her. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." Elena chuckled, though it didn't sound like her usual laugh. "Feels like I am." "I get it," Olivia said, her voice calm and understanding. "This project is huge. The stakes are high. But you've already accomplished so much. You're already changing the way people think about architecture and sustainability. Why? Open to others." "I know," Elena said softly, "but the critics people are questioning whether it's really possible to pull off something like this on such a large scale. I keep thinking, what if they're right? What if this is too ambitious?" Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "It's natural to feel that way. But do you remember when you first started this? Everyone said it was impossible, that you couldn't build something like this, that it would never work. Look at where you are now. You've proven them wrong every step of the way. So why stop now?" Elena looked at her for a moment, the doubt slowly starting to fade. Olivia was right. When this all started, people had told her that her vision was too grand, too idealistic. But she had pushed through. She had found a way to make it happen, step by step, even when it seemed impossible. "I guess I've always been afraid of failing," Elena admitted. "Afraid that no matter how hard I work, no matter how much effort I put in, it won't be enough. And that thought keeps creeping into my head every time we hit a roadblock." "You're not going to fail," Olivia said firmly. "You've built this from the ground up, and you've shown everyone that it can be done. And even if things don't go as planned, you'll learn from it. But you can't let the fear of failure stop you from moving forward. You have to keep going, even when the road gets tough. Elena stared at the tea in front of her, taking in Olivia's words. She had always prided herself on her determination, on her ability to push through obstacles, but lately the doubts had felt like a heavy burden, one she couldn't shake. Still, hearing Olivia's unwavering belief in her, Elena felt a flicker of hope. "You're right," she said, finally feeling the weight of her doubt lift slightly. "I've come too far to stop now. I can't let fear hold me back." Olivia smiled. "Exactly. You've got this. And besides, you're not alone in this. You've got a team that believes in you, and they're all working towards the same goal. You're not carrying this by yourself." Elena nodded, feeling a renewed sense of strength. She wasn't alone in this. She had built a team of people who were just as committed to the project as she was. Together, they would overcome any challenge that came their way. Later that evening, as she walked around the site, Elena felt a deep sense of gratitude. The construction was coming along beautifully. The vision she had dreamed of for so long was becoming a reality, and though the road ahead was still uncertain, she knew that with her team by her side, they could tackle whatever obstacles lay ahead. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden light over the buildings. Elena paused for a moment, taking in the view. This was it, the beginning of something extraordinary. She had started this project with a dream, a vision of what the world could be if they embraced sustainable design. And now, as she looked around at the progress they had made, she felt a sense of peace. No matter what happened, she knew they had done something that would have a lasting impact. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the buildings, Elena turned and walked back to the team. They had a long road ahead of them, but for the first time in a while, she felt ready. She wasn't alone, and together, they would change the world. As the project moved into its final stages, Elena found herself in a constant state of motion. The worksite buzzed with activity contractors, designers, and engineers all working toward the same goal. The buildings were beginning to take shape, their sleek lines and sustainable materials standing tall against the skyline. Every time Elena visited the site, she was filled with awe at what they had accomplished. The idea that had once lived only in her mind was now a tangible reality, something that people could see, touch, and experience. But with the excitement of nearing completion came the pressure of ensuring everything was perfect. The project had come so far, and Elena couldn't afford to let anything fall through the cracks now. The opening date was set, and the world was watching. The media attention had only intensified in recent months, and Elena knew that the final product had to live up to the immense expectations that had been set. The final push was exhausting. There were countless meetings with investors, last-minute changes to the design, and constant coordination between the various teams. Elena found herself buried in spreadsheets, schedules, and endless emails, trying to keep everything on track while ensuring that nothing was overlooked. It was hard to keep up with the pace, but she had no choice. This was the moment she had worked for her entire career. She couldn't afford to let anyone down, not the team, not the investors, and certainly not herself. One late evening, after everyone had left the site for the day, Elena found herself standing alone in the middle of the nearly completed structure. The sound of her footsteps echoed in the empty space as she walked through the vast, open floors. The architecture was exactly as she had envisioned spaces that flowed naturally, designed to harmonize with the environment. The natural light streamed in through the windows, casting long shadows on the floors, and Elena felt an overwhelming sense of pride. But the pride was tempered with a familiar weight. The road to get here hadn't been easy, and there were moments when she wondered if it was all worth it. The stress, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, it had all taken its toll. And yet, as she stood in the building she had created, all of it seemed worth it. She had built something that would stand the test of time, something that would inspire future generations of architects, designers, and environmentalists. As she walked through the building, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a message from him. Elena, I know you're under a lot of pressure right now, but I just want to remind you of something. You've done something incredible. This project is more than just a building, it's a legacy. You've created something that will change the world. Don't forget that. She smiled at the message, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. She had heard these words from him before, but now they felt more meaningful than ever. The weight of the project had always been on her shoulders, but in that moment, Elena realized that she wasn't carrying it alone. She had a team of passionate people supporting her, and together, they had accomplished something extraordinary. Taking a deep breath, Elena replied to the message. Thank you. It's been a long road, but we're almost there. I couldn't have done it without you. The response came almost instantly. We did it together. You should be proud of what you've built. As Elena put her phone back in her pocket, she took one last look around the space. There was still work to be done, but the hardest part was behind her. They had made it, and no matter what the future held, this project would always be a reminder of what was possible when passion, vision, and hard work came together. The next morning, Elena stood at the site with her team, watching as the final touches were added. The anticipation was palpable. The grand opening was just days away, and the world was about to see the fruits of their labor. She felt a sense of gratitude for everyone who had contributed: designers, engineers, contractors, investors, and everyone who had believed in the vision. The success of the project wasn't just hers, it was theirs, too. And as she watched the final preparations unfold, she knew that the impact of this work would extend far beyond the building itself. It would inspire change. It would make people think differently about architecture, about sustainability, and about the future. Ready? He asked, stepping up beside her. Elena looked at him, her heart full of emotion. I think so. He smiled. You've done it, Elena. This is your legacy. She nodded, her eyes on the horizon. This is just the beginning. There's so much more to do. As they walked toward the building's entrance, Elena felt a deep sense of peace. The road had been long, and the journey was far from over. But this was a moment she would always remember, the moment when she realized that everything she had worked for had led to this point. They had built something incredible, and it was just the beginning of what was to come. The day of the grand opening arrived faster than Elena expected. She had spent the last few days in a blur of final preparations, checking details, ensuring everything was in place, and addressing any last-minute issues that had come up. It felt surreal. After all the hard work, the challenges, the doubts, they were finally here. The building her dream was ready to be unveiled to the world. As she stood at the front of the building, watching the guests begin to arrive, Elena's nerves kicked in. The media, investors, environmental activists, and community leaders were all there, each one eager to see the culmination of years of planning and work. She could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. She had promised them something extraordinary, and now it was time to deliver. She took a deep breath and turned to look at the building. The facade gleamed in the sunlight, its design a perfect fusion of modern architecture and sustainability. The green roofs, solar panels, and use of recycled materials stood as a testament to everything she had worked for. It was everything she had envisioned, and more. Are you ready? He asked, his voice calm as always, though there was an unmistakable excitement in his eyes. Elena nodded, trying to calm the fluttering in her chest. I think so. It's just a lot, you know. He smiled. I do know. But you've been preparing for this moment your whole life. You've done the hard work, and now it's time to let it speak for itself. She took another breath, gathering herself. Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you. He gave her a reassuring nod. We've all played a part in this, but it was your vision that made it all happen. Elena's phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her out of her thoughts. She checked it quickly. It was a message from Olivia. You've got this. We're all so proud of you. Elena smiled, grateful for the support. She typed back quickly. I'm ready. Let's do this. The time had come. As the guests gathered inside, Elena walked to the podium at the front, her heart pounding. She could feel the eyes of the world on her, but she was no longer nervous. She was ready. This wasn't just about her, it was about the vision they had all worked toward. It was about showing the world that sustainable architecture was not only possible, but necessary. She stepped up to the microphone, cleared her throat, and began to speak. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today, as we unveil something that is not just a building, but a vision. A vision of a future where sustainability, design, and community come together in ways that honor our planet and future generations. Elena paused, allowing the words to sink in. She could see the interest in the crowd, the genuine curiosity in their eyes. This was more than just an opening, it was a movement. When we started this project, many people told us it was impossible. They said we couldn't build a structure that was both beautiful and sustainable on this scale. But we believed in something greater than the obstacles in our way. We believed in a future where design doesn't just serve the present, but also serves the future, where we create spaces that are in harmony with the world around us, and we set out to prove that it could be done. She took a deep breath, her confidence growing as she spoke. Today, what you see around you is the result of years of hard work, collaboration, and a shared commitment to something bigger than any of us. It's the result of a team who believed in this vision and who worked tirelessly to make it a reality. The crowd applauded, and Elena felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This was it. This was what she had worked for. Not just a project, but a movement, a change in the way people thought about architecture, sustainability, and the world. As you walk through these spaces today, I hope you see more than just a building. I hope you see the future, a future where design and sustainability are not separate, but one, where we build not just for today, but for tomorrow. And I hope you see that this is just the beginning. With those final words, Elena stepped back from the podium, the applause filling the room. She had done it. She had taken her vision, turned it into reality, and shared it with the world. It was no longer just her dream, it was a shared dream, one that others could see, touch, and experience. After the speech, Elena spent the rest of the day mingling with guests, answering questions, and sharing her vision for the future. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with people from all walks of life eager to get involved and support the movement. She could see the excitement in their eyes, the recognition that this project wasn't just about a building, it was about changing the way people thought about the world around them. As the event came to a close, Elena found herself standing at the entrance of the building, looking out over the city. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light over everything, and for the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. She had built something that mattered, something that would last, and as the first of many doors opened, she knew this was only the beginning. The weeks following the grand opening were a blur of press coverage, investor meetings, and community support. Elena had always known that the real work would come after the opening, but even she hadn't anticipated just how much attention the project would generate. The media was abuzz with excitement, and investors were eager to see how they could replicate the success of the first building. It felt like the momentum had reached a tipping point, and there was no stopping it now. But amidst all the noise, Elena found herself reflecting on everything that had brought her here. The long hours, the sacrifices, the moments of doubt, everything had led to this. She had built something that not only stood as a testament to her vision, but also had the potential to change the way the world thought about architecture and sustainability. And in that moment, she realized that this wasn't just about the buildings. It was about creating a shift in the way people lived, thought, and interacted with the environment. One evening, as she stood on the rooftop of the building, looking out over the city, Elena felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The view was breathtaking there. In the distance, she could see the skyline that she had once dreamed of changing. It was no longer just a city. It was a canvas for what was to come. The project had sparked a conversation, and the world was listening. It was no longer about her vision alone. It was about a collective movement, a call to action for all who believed that the future of design was tied to the future of the planet. You look deep in thought, a voice called from behind her. Elena turned to see him walking toward her, a familiar smile on his face. It was amazing how in tune they had become over the course of this journey. He had been there from the beginning, supporting her vision, offering guidance when she needed it, and providing the steady presence she had so often relied on. "I was just thinking about how far we've come," Elena said, her voice filled with quiet awe. "This project has been everything to me, and now it feels like we're only getting started." He nodded, joining her by the railing, looking out at the city as well. "It's true. This is just the beginning. The future is wide open now. You've shown the world what's possible, and now the real challenge is continuing to build on this foundation, to keep pushing the boundaries." Elena smiled. "I think we're ready for that. We've proven that it's possible, and now we have the chance to show others how they can do it too." He turned to her, his expression more serious now. "You've done something incredible here, Elena. You've not only created a building, but you've created a legacy. You've inspired people, and I'm proud to have been part of that." Elena looked at him, the gratitude in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've been with me every step of the way." "I do." He placed a hand on her shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. "We've all played a part, and I believe you've only just begun to make your mark on the world." As they stood there, watching the lights of the city flicker to life beneath them, Elena felt a profound sense of peace. The future was uncertain. Of course, there were always challenges, always more to learn and do. But for the first time in a long time, she felt ready. Ready to continue, ready to lead, and ready to embrace whatever came next. The project had never just been about building a structure, it had always been about something bigger. It was about proving that change was possible, that the world could build in a way that respected the environment, and created spaces where people could truly thrive. And now, as she looked out at the city, Elena knew that this was only the beginning. There was still so much more to do, but she was no longer afraid. She had built something that mattered, something that would stand the test of time, and whatever came next, she was ready to face it head-on, knowing that the journey had already changed her, the team, and the world. And so, as the night deepened and the city glowed beneath them, Elena realized that she had done exactly what she set out to do. She had changed the world not with one building, but with a movement that would continue to grow, inspire, and transform the future of architecture for generations to come. The journey was far from over, but it was already clear. Elena had found her place in the world, and this was only the beginning.